So welcome to this Facebook Live where I'm going to be talking about the 3.5 secrets to beating anxiety. So what I'm about to share is based on my own experience of overcoming anxiety and having worked with people with anxiety for over 19 years. So thanks for letting me know you can hear me and see me. So we'll explore how is it that a person can feel anxious, for example, about speaking in front of people and within a couple of minutes feel relaxed. So I'd be interested in your thoughts on that. What do you think? What is it that can make someone make that shift in such a quick amount of time? And the reason I ask that is because often when I give free talks, I say to the group, look, if there's anyone here who finds it uncomfortable talking in front of others, then if you like, I'm 99% certain within a couple of minutes you're going to feel more comfortable. And so if you let me know, I'll just ask you a few questions and let's see what happens. And usually every time I give a talk there is someone there who finds it really challenging to talk in front of others in a group. So any thoughts about how you can make that shift that quickly? So I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll talk about how we generate anxiety, how the mind, the brain and the body work. And I'll talk about what that half secret is. Okay, so obviously quick point, anxiety can be physical. For instance, if you have a health issue, that can be driving your anxiety. But really what I'm focusing on here is the anxiety that is driven by our mind. Okay, so when I ask people in that situation where I'm giving a talk, what is the reason for the discomfort? Any ideas what the person usually says? So Joanne says, I can talk in public. I'm anxious at small things like going to new places, attending doctor, dentist, etc. Okay, so it is different for different people. You know, some people find talking in front of others easy, but other people, you know, find that really challenging. There was a time when the idea of standing up and giving a presentation was absolutely terrifying. Now it's much less so. So in this video I want to talk about, I shared a video in the week where I talked about the topic of beating anxiety, and one of the things I said is that it is possible to develop strategies to beat anxiety and experience calm. And anxiety isn't part of your personality, it's a habit. Okay, and so let's just move on to the slides. It is a habit, and the good news is that we can change habits. And in order to experience calm, to change the habit, we really need to understand how the brain works, how the brain, the mind and the body interact. And the fundamental concept that we need to understand is that what we practice, we get good at. So neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to grow with use. So when we practice something, the neurons, the wiring in the brain becomes stronger, thicker, so we can get really good at the thing we are practicing, and we can get good at it and replicate that behavior that we're practicing really quickly. And when we get good at something, then that behavior becomes conditioned, i.e. automatic. So there's a quote I like by Will Durant. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit. So we can develop excellence. What is interesting is, so for instance, if someone's learning to play the piano, then they can get really good at it, so that they don't have to think about playing the chord of C. It becomes automatic. Problem is, we can also get really good at things that are not very helpful. And anxiety is an example of that. We can generate those feelings of anxiety in a nanosecond for the reasons that I've just explained. The wiring in the brain gets faster and stronger, so we can access that state more quickly. So for example, I remember working with a client with social phobia, and she said she could, when she was in a social situation, she would just get those feelings of anxiety in a nanosecond. Okay? And for instance, that example of the person who's not comfortable speaking in the group, that discomfort has become conditioned because they practiced it. So they can generate those feelings very quickly. And I remember working with a client who had a phobia about giving presentations. And actually, when I asked her, what do you think is going on in your head that means you're generating those feelings? And she said, I don't know. I have no idea. So we'll talk about that. So the first secret that I want to talk about is that your brain is making about 1 million connections every second. What fascinates me is that you can influence some of those connections. And it's possible to do that really quickly. So let's give you an example of that. Let's imagine that you're working in a bar and one day the electric till breaks down. Fortunately, the maths is quite easy. So a glass of beer is about £5.50 and a glass of wine is £7.50. But what are you going to be like at doing the maths in your head to begin with? Now maybe a packet of crisps is £1.50, but what are you going to be like when you first have to do that maths in your head? What do you think? And whilst I'll wait for your response, let's just have a look. Joanne says it's about control for me. If I was doing a presentation, I would be in charge. Okay, I understand that. So it's interesting, isn't it? You know, people have different experiences of something. So Sally says you'd be slow. Yeah, but consider this. What would you be like at the end of the first shift? I suspect you'd be better. What would you be like at the end of the second shift at doing the maths in your head? You'd be better still. The end of the third shift, I think it'd be pretty automatic. And in a month's time, you'd be an expert at doing maths in your head. And you can get good at that really quickly. Yeah, a bit faster, much faster, exactly. So let's go to the next slide. As I say, you know, we can get really good at stuff that's not very helpful. So if your brain is wired for unhelpful stuff, the good news is you can change. And you can start to rewire the brain so that you can get good at stuff that's more helpful. And I'm living proof of that because I was a really an anxious person. And when I started learning all these tools to train my mind and brain, I realised, oh my gosh, I am actually quite neurotic and I've learned to be much less so. So the second thing we need to do is we need to understand how we generate anxiety. And secret number 2 is that there is a recipe for anxiety. If someone says to me, I'm really calm, I'd like to feel anxious, can you help me? I'd say, yeah, there's certain things you need to do in order to generate anxiety. So you add these ingredients, A plus B plus C equals D, which is the anxiety. When you understand how to do the recipe for anxiety, you can learn how to stop doing that recipe and start to do the recipe for calm. So the third secret is that one of the mistakes people make that results in anxiety is that they're not being flexible in their thinking. And often people don't realise that they aren't being flexible in their thinking. So it's an unconscious pattern. They don't realise that they're doing it. And in the course that I'm starting next week, a 6-week course called Calm, I'll share simple but powerful technique called the Resilient Mindset Hack to help you identify how you're not being flexible in your thinking and how to shift this. So you may be wondering, what's that half secret? Yeah, so we can become more flexible in our thinking. So you may be wondering, what is the half secret? Well, the half secret is that people can get stuck in an anxiety loop. Okay, so they notice sensations in their body. And this is what I used to do. And this is if someone wants to know how to generate a panic attack. What you do is you notice the sensations in your body and then you have some thoughts about that. And actually the thoughts tend to be the same, which is why we're not being flexible in our thinking. So for instance, we notice that anxiety and we say, oh no, I'm feeling anxious. And that just creates that loop where you then get more sensation in your body and you respond to that saying, oh no, I'm even more anxious now. And before you know it, you're generating a full-blown panic attack. I did that many times. Okay, but when you understand how you get stuck in this loop, and certainly when I understood how I was getting stuck in that loop, I was able to break that loop and generate a more beneficial loop. And at one point, I didn't even know how I was generating the anxiety and the panic attacks. And once I knew, it was possible to change and experience more calm in many situations. It was easy to do that. Okay, so for instance, that example of the client who, or the person who came to my free talk, who was scared about talking in front of the others, once she understood the recipe, she was able to make a mental shift. And as I say, that happened literally in minutes. And she said, actually, I feel much more calm. And that happened time and time again every time I've given a talk. And there's been someone in the group who finds talking challenging in front of others. They've managed to shift that really quickly. I remember working with a client who had a fear of flying. And again, once he understood the recipe that he was doing to generate that fear, and he made that mental shift, he was able to get on planes no problem. He was touring America, he's a musician, he's getting on and off of planes. He sent me a picture of him in the cockpit of one of the small planes that he flew in. And that client I mentioned with the social phobia, again, once she understood the recipe for how she was generating that anxiety, she was able to make a shift and experience more calm. So we need to understand that anxiety isn't fixed. You know, I remember people saying, oh, he's an anxious person, as if that was a fixed thing and they couldn't change. Actually, and I was really curious about this. This is when I was quite young. I was thinking, I wonder if that's true, that people can't change. And my curiosity and I suppose my desire to fix my own anxiety meant that I went on this kind of journey, exploring methods for doing so. And I tried lots of different things. I read books, I did courses, and it's only when I discovered certain approaches and developed some techniques that I really understood what was going on and how to shift that. So we need to understand how we generate anxiety, how the mind, the brain and the body work, and how we can do the recipe for calm and confidence. So as I said, I am going to be starting a course next week called Calm. It's a 6-week course. The cost of that, I would normally charge $197, but I decided that for this class you can pay anything from £0 to £197 according to your purse and how valuable you find the training. So if you don't find the training valuable, you pay nothing. If you do find it valuable, you just pay according to what you can afford. No questions asked. So how does it work? Each week I'll release videos on the first Monday of the week. You'll get access to a private Facebook group where I'll post all the content. Each Wednesday we'll have a live session. And the time is going to be decided by you, the participant. So what you'll need to do is to go to this page. I'll pop the link in the chat. Click that button to sign up. And once you do, you'll get an email. Fill in the poll by the end of Friday, and emails will go out over the weekend as to what time we're going to meet on the Wednesday. And if you are watching on YouTube, click the link below. But if you've got any questions, get in touch. And otherwise, check out the page. If you're interested, sign up. It'd be great to have you participate. Joanne saying great idea. Yeah, well, everyone, all welcome. So feel free to share that link with anyone who might find it helpful. Sally says signed up. Thank you. You are welcome, Sally. So thanks everybody for watching. Wishing great health. Bye for now.